Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thanks again for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day. Bitcoin, of course, as usual, kind of seeing what's going on. We got a nice solid closure above 25,100 there with our yesterday's daily candle, and we got a nice little ramp back up to 26.5 today. So we're going to talk a little bit about the fair value gap that still remains to be filled. We're going to look at the weekly chart too and kind of understand these patterns that are forming pretty consistently, as well as, of course, a little bit of back-end data here with some open interest and obviously liquidation levels. So some things you probably want to stick around for. Be sure to watch all the way through. I'll try to make it quick and brief and just touch on some important points there. And just before I get started, thanks again to my community for just being awesome parts of my life. It's really cool. They're all jumping in together, asking for help and helping each other out, and it's super cool to be able to see this. So again, awesome stuff there. Congrats again to our community members here, our premium members. We got some nice profits from BlueZell, 42%, and 21% from Solana. That was on Sunday. We've got those trades still open. I'll probably cover those here soon, just so we can kind of stay abreast on what's going on. But generally speaking, those were some long positions there just before we saw that little dip there. So what do we want to talk about here on the weekly? Let's go ahead and jump right into that first and foremost. Quickly note here on the weekly, we are above the 50-day simple moving average still, but underneath the 20. So we're kind of compressing this little range here. Once we break free and we stay above the 20 and the 50, we'll be in pretty darn good shape. But for the moment here, that is roughly where we're at. We want to take a quick look here as well at the 200. 200 is above the price action right now. So we got to recognize 28,000 will be somewhat of a resistance level. Okay? That is coincidentally a Fibonacci retracement level and also a previous resistance zone. So I think we're going to see some areas of resistance at 28,000. Between now and then, we might be range bound between 25 and 28 as a rough estimate. That said, though, what I wanted to show you here mainly on the weekly is just kind of some patterns here that are pretty consistent. In other words, anytime the price drops really hard and really fast, we see an inevitable sideways action followed by an increase. Okay, now sometimes it's a dead cat, so to speak. Other times it's pretty significant here to stay. But the bottom line here is anytime we see these really large weekly candles, it's always followed by some doji candles and then an increase or decrease. Okay, we get this previous increase here, doji, decrease. Filled that fair value gap right there. Okay, so just know that we still have somewhat of this fair value gap here to be filled. More so active on the daily than the weekly, but I do think we're going to see a push to the 28,000 range again. Now, do we short at that level? We're going to talk about that and kind of see if that's an opportunity or not, but we can mainly look at volume and understand roughly where our volume's accumulated. And if you kind of look at the most recent past, just say this is from February as a rough estimate, most amount of volume is about that 24,000 range, 23.5. But if we take a look at the most recent volume, we can see that is leveled out pretty strong right at the 27 and 30/29,000 range. Okay, so just some important things to recognize. Volume is a good thing to pay attention to, and I just always like to kind of highlight that. And why don't we take a look at this most recent time frame here, ever since mid-August, roughly about 1 month's worth of trading in this range. Largest amount of volume, right there where the price action's at 26,000. So the closure today above 26,000, I think would be a very good start to potentially get back on track, right? We washed out all these lower levels here, took a lot of liquidity off the table, and of course we're back on track. I actually sent out an update here, if I recall correctly, on my Twitter recently, where we had a nice little liquidity sweep here from Bitcoin. See, I think it was right back here. There we are, right about 25,700, where the price action swept this lower level here, and that low liquidity sweep is a very common characteristic where the price action will kind of find those lower lows and effectively bounce off that level. Okay, so again, solid bounce off that 25,000 range. I was happy to have gotten a nice long position in there at 25,000 for a small 5x trade there, of course, with my leverage. Obviously, try not to do too much. Okay. All right. So that said, that's where we're at here roughly. Let's jump on over to High Block Capital, talk about some back-end data here, and then kind of work our way down. That said, looking at the daily, we can kind of see here quite noticeably these liquidation levels here. Look at that, almost perfect. 25,600, the price wicked up right to that same level there to wash out a lot of shorts. It's a very common characteristic, okay? We also can see that we got this fair value gap that needs to be filled, so there's some liquidation levels right about 27,000 too. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the next target for the bulls, okay? So a lot of volume today, a lot of price action to the upside. We can see, of course, big surprise, more liquidations for shorts than longs here today. And then obviously whales are extremely active. big surprise. Price action jumps up and the whales are active. Price action jumps down, they're active as well. So it's a very common characteristic you'll see. And just note our fear and greed index is still fairly low, but that hasn't considered what took place here today because this is more recent with this push here. So taking a look at the longs, what we want to do is just take a quick look at the long open interest here, kind of see where they're kind of hanging out here. Most longs are about 25,800 in the last 12 hours. Okay, so if you look at the most recent time frame, last 12 hours, we can see most longs are in the green. They're in profit at 25,800. Okay, so they're late longs. So keep in mind those could get washed out here. As far as shorts are concerned, we've also got some late shorts at 25,800. Expect that to be a resistance, which makes sense because 26,000 was that previous resistance level. And big surprise, we just gapped right straight through that. Okay, so pretty standard stuff there. Let's take a look quickly here at the here. We're going to look at some liquidation levels here. I'm going to take all three exchanges and get an understanding here in the last 7 days. We have the most amount of liquidation levels at 23,300. That's no surprise. I sent that out on my Twitter here recently. And then 24,800. So just below that 25,000 mark, we have a lot of liquidations. Furthermore, we've got a lot of liquidations at 26,600, 26,700. We could see that previously on the daily. So again, those are some levels here. We're getting closer to this level, though. It would make more sense for the price action to squeeze out some of these shorts, liquidate them, and then the price action pull back a little bit further. Wouldn't be surprised if we see next nice little ramp back up there, that 27,000 range. So what do we do here with the daily? Let's take a look here, see what's going on. So on the daily, we want to recognize there's a few key factors here. First of all, we bounced off close to 30 on the RSI, is like 32. But as I mentioned yesterday, when you get to that extreme low, for the most part, Bitcoin or any coin will tend to recover at that level. Okay, so again, that's just kind of a standard indicator. It's another reason why I felt comfortable taking our long position yesterday and essentially took some nice profit here today because of that. Now, the main reason why we take that, you don't take a trade just on that one thing. There's a myriad of other factors. But you can say here, too, that we have some resistance. And this is something we want to talk about just really quick, kind of on a different note, but still relevant. When we're looking at the moving averages here, we did talk about the death cross yesterday as being a potential resistance level. Okay, that's average right about 27,600. Coincidentally, it's right there at this main resistance level the price action rejected initially. Okay, so the bottom line here is if the price continues higher, we will see some resistance between 27 and 28,000. Okay, so that's just kind of a future reference. For right now, though, we want to worry about the 20-day SMA. And this is a trend setter in most cases. Getting above that level would be impactful, so we can kind of slowly start averaging our price out, right? So if the price can kind of maintain itself, we should be able to see an increase if we can close above that level. All the more reason to see a closure at 26,000 or higher today, okay? So that's really what I'm looking for in the overall sense of things here to feel more confident in another long position. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at here for Bitcoin on the daily. Take a look at the 4-hour. Let's go ahead and wrap this up here for us. We can see we bounced off of 30 on the RSI as well. It's another reason why I considered taking a long position there, because we had that nice little convergence, so to speak, there, not only on the MACD, but more importantly, where we switched back over to 30 plus on the RSI. Anytime you get below 30 on the RSI, specifically on the 4-hour, it's a common characteristic for the price action to recover and rally back at that point. Okay? Now again, a rally can come in different ways. It doesn't normally happen this strong. I was honestly expecting the price action to get rejected at about that 25.6, 26,000 range. But it continued to break through, and we could be able to anticipate 26,000 being the new support. It's hard to say specifically just yet, but for the most part, that's kind of what we're looking at here. It's trending towards that. Keep in mind tomorrow CPI data, so prepare yourself here. This a lot of this price action that's occurring right now is kind of baking in that price. So I do think that even though we'll see some volatility tomorrow, I don't think it's going to be a definitive shot either up or down. I think we're expecting kind of a 0% situation, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so again, double check the data on that here tomorrow. That will be released tomorrow. But once more, at this point, that's kind of what we're looking at. Okay, so that's where we're at there on the 4-hour. Last thing I want to summarize here with is probably likely being back up above the cloud. Keep in mind, range-bound activity gives us some false positives, but if we can continue to etch up here, we should be able to see the price action continue higher. Keep in mind, we could see the price pull back as low as 25,750 or 25.8. So hypothetically, 25,800 should be our new support level. And the reason why we can know that is because we looked at our liquidation levels previously, and that's roughly where we had the most amount of shorts hedged at and those shorts are in the red at that level. Okay, so 25.8 is the point of contention, so we can expect the price to continue to bounce off that level if it does pull back to that range. So a good long entry would be closer to 25.8, honestly. Just be careful if you're going to consider shorting right now. I know it seems juicy, but I think it's a little premature. I do think that we're going to see a pushback up to the 28,000 range here in the relative near future, especially if we get some positive news here from CPI tomorrow. Okay, so all in all, fairly decent stuff here from Bitcoin. I wouldn't say that the sky is falling. Try not to get stuck on the whole term death cross. It's really just kind of an indication that you're below a couple of moving averages, emphasizing a strong resistance level. It does not mean the sky is going to fall and that we're going to just drop insanely fast. Yeah. People kind of misinterpret that and think that, oh, okay, we crossed here, now we're gonna drop. That's not exactly the case. It just means that we're gonna have some problems getting past that level because those moving averages are telling us that's where the price action should be averaged at, where it's below that, and in turn considered to be oversold. Folks are considering selling more often. Last thing to wrap up here too, I forgot to mention this. It's important to look at the Bitcoin dominance too. We can see Bitcoin dominance is increasing. Okay, that's notoriously a bad thing for altcoins. So even though we are seeing some altcoins recover here today, a lot of them are having some difficulty and they're kind of stuck in this stupid range where they're not blasting off like you expect them to concurrent with Bitcoin. Some coins are, of course, we've got like BCH, for example, is taken off just as well. There's a lot of coins that are 100% synonymous, but for the most part, with Bitcoin taking off here, our Bitcoin dominance is higher, we can expect altcoin dominance to be lower, and in turn, alts are going to sell off. I have a good way to describe this here in our education section. I have it pinned. It's a kind of a little cheat sheet here for you. When Bitcoin dominance is up and the price of Bitcoin is up, alt prices typically go down. Okay, so keep in mind, alt dominance is down, Bitcoin dominance is up, and the price is up. If the Bitcoin price can consider stabilizing, then we'll start to see alt stabilize too. All the more reason why I want to see 26,000 hold. If Bitcoin just drops right back down again, we're going to see a dump from altcoins, and that's going to be a problem, okay? At least for most folks' portfolios, including my own, right? So we don't want that. We want Bitcoin to hold 26,000 or higher. That's really the key takeaway here. All right, I hope that makes sense. Thanks again so much for watching. If you want to like, follow, subscribe, the whole 9 yards on our YouTube, Discord, Twitter, Telegram, greatly appreciate the follow. We have some really cool, awesome technical and fundamental data in here, and of course, we like to celebrate our wins as well. So be sure to check it out. Bitcoin, back to life, back to reality. We'll see. All right, thanks again. Have a good rest of your day. We'll see you soon.